In this video, we will discuss about a very important concept called data item exposure. Until now, we have been setting the value of a data item either by entering it manually or by creating a calc stage that will update the data item. In both these ways, the data item's value is controlled within the process or object diagram. There are also other methods to control the data item outside the diagram. This is done by exposing a data item. So let's see what exposing a data item means and what are the different types of exposure. If we go to our currency conversion process and open the Open Workbook stage, we have given the file path of the Excel file inside the stage. This is definitely not a good practice. Ideally, we should enter this path in a data item and simply drag and drop the data item into this value field. But a better option is to use the environment variable feature of Blue Prism. An environment variable is a variable that we can access from all the processes and objects across the environment, which means all the processes and objects that are on the same database. Let's see how this works. I'll copy this file path, close the stage, go to the System tab, and under Processes you can see Environment Variables. And if we click that, you see the option Add Variable. Click that and a new line item appears. I'll name it as file path, select the type as text, and give a description. Then in the value field, I'll paste the file path that we copied from the Open Workbook stage, and I'll remove the double quotes. Click Apply. I'll then go to the Process Studio, click Refresh, drag and drop a data item, double click, and you see a field called Exposure. If you click that, you see an option called Environment. It says read the corresponding environment variable from System Manager. I'll select that, and you can see that all other fields are grayed out because environment variables are read only, and also the name shows missing data 1. That is because as soon as you select the exposure as environment, you can only access the variables that you have defined in the environment variables on the System tab. We haven't created a variable named data 1. That's why it says missing data 1. But if we click on that, you can see the variable that we created, which is file path. If I select that, you can see the data type, initial value, and current value are automatically filled in. I'll click OK. Then double click Open Workbook, delete this file path, drag and drop the data item file path, and click OK. Now in the future, if there is a change in the path, you don't have to open this process at all. You can simply update it in the environment variable under the System tab and it will be accessed. Now this functionality is very useful in production environments because once a process goes live, the bots are monitored and managed by a special production support team, and this team is called by different names like bot control team, control room operators, bot operators, RPM monitoring, and so on. Different companies call them with different names, so it's really not standard. Though these team members are trained and proficient in Blue Prism or any RPA tool, it is still very difficult to search through the entire process or object diagram and find out a data item whenever there is a change. So it is a good practice to give these kind of variables as an environment variable rather than a data item inside the process. Similarly, if we go to the Update Excel page, we have this Open Workbook action. Here again we have hard-coded the file name, so here also you can use a data item which can be mapped to the environment variable, but we already have the file path data item in the main page and we can use that. So if I expand this, I don't see the file path data item here. Let me show you why. If I go to the main page and double click the file path data item, you can see the visibility is set to hide from other pages in the process. If we simply uncheck this and click OK, and now go back to the Update Excel page, double click Open Workbook, expand text, and you can see the file path data item. So I'll delete this, drag and drop file path, and click OK. Alright, now let's open the file path data item again. And if we click the exposure field, there are two more types, statistic and session. When you set this data item as statistic, the value of this data item will be stored in the database and can be used for reporting purposes. We'll talk about this in detail in a future video where we discuss about generating reports. The session variable is used to set the value of a data item from the control room while the process is running. In the case of environment variable, once you set a value and start the process, the value will remain the same until the end of the process, even if you change the environment variable while the process is running. However, when you change the value of a session variable while the process is running, the new session variable will be picked up by the process. For example, let's say if we convert this two-currency data item into a session variable, and then while the process is running, if we change the value of this two-currency from INR to some other currency, say Japanese yen, then immediately when the next item reaches this currency converter stage, and when it picks the two currency, it takes the value Japanese yen instead of INR. So let's give it a try. I'll double click the two currency data item, select the exposure as session, and click OK. Then we will open the currency exercise Excel file. And this time, instead of just 7 records, we will have 25 records, because the process will run so fast that we will not even get a chance to change the session variable. Now all the 25 records will simply be the repetition of the first two records, which are USD 55 and AED 140. The reason why I want the values to be repeated is because we can easily identify the change in the result when we review this file after the process is completed. So I will select the first two records, drag until the 26th row, select copy cells, and I'll fill in the S number column. Then we will save and close the file. I will also save the process. Okay, now we are ready to run the process. This time I have added one more computer to the network, which is Win7BP Test 1. And that's why you see 3 computers under available resources. So I will switch to the new computer. And you can see I have set the theme to green color just to differentiate from the other 2 computers. I'm going to run this process only from 2 computers, Win7BP Prod 1 and Win7BP Prod 2. I'll use this computer only to monitor the run and change the session variable. So I will select the 2 computers, drag and drop them on the process, and you can see the 2 new sessions have appeared. I'll click this option, Show Session Variables, and you will see a new pane has shown up, but you don't see anything here because the session variables will start to show up only once you start the process. So let's go ahead and start the process. Okay, the process started and you see 2 session variables have appeared below. If I just select one session, it will show the corresponding session variable below, and you can see that the session ID matches. Now let's check the queue to see if both the computers have started picking up the items. Alright, now that they have started working on the items, I'll go back to the session management, and I'll change the session variable for Win7BP Prod 1 to Japanese yen, which is JPY. Okay, so you can see that JPY has reflected here, and if I go to that computer, you can see that it started using JPY as the 2 currency. But if we go to Win7BP Prod 2, it still uses INR as the 2 currency. Let's wait for the process to be completed. Okay, the process is completed. Now let's open the currency exercise file. And let's compare it side by side with the queue. You can see that the items processed by Win7BP Prod 1 after this point has got the Japanese yen value instead of INR value. You can make out the difference by the value here. However, the items processed by Win7 Prod 2 have INR value throughout the list. Okay, so that was a very simple exercise of how a session variable works. In real-time processes, session variables are mostly used for processes that run 24/7 or long duration with multiple bots. So let me give you a homework here, okay? Assume that a client has asked you to do this currency conversion process where you will get an Excel file of say 3000 records every day, and you need to use only 2 bots. Once the run is completed, the bot should save the completed file in the shared drive, which is what we are doing now. However, as there will be more than 3000 records and only 2 bots are allowed, the process may take several hours. So the client is giving you an additional requirement that sometimes they will ask you for a report in the middle of the run for the items that have been processed until that point of time. So you need to set a session variable which is of flag type, basically true or false, and when you set the session variable as true while the process is running for a bot, only that bot should consolidate the data which was processed until that time and save it as a separate file. The other bot should continue working with the rest of the items, and this bot should continue to work with the rest of the items after it creates the interim report. Alright, so that's a very interesting exercise. For your convenience, I have uploaded the process and object files to Google Drive and have published in the description below. So you can very well download them and continue further. Don't forget to create the file path environment variable. If you notice, I have added one more sleep stage here because at times I found that before even the second bot gets to this acquire lock stage, the first bot completes adding the items to queue and releases the lock. So the second bot again acquires the lock and adds the items once again into the queue. So it's creating kind of duplicate entries. Also, I have added exception handling for all the action pages in the objects. If you feel some more exceptions have to be added, please feel free to do it. Okay, so I'll be waiting for your solution. Go ahead and start working on it. Once you complete, upload it onto Google Drive and mention the link in the comment section below. Let's see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.